Hi everybody and welcome to week 5 of 8. We are officially over the halfway point, which means that you're over a quarter of the way through your full semester. So congrats on that. That is awesome. I wanted to start out with a video this week as usual to kind of walk you through where we are and where we're going. Today and this week we are focusing on two things. One is something you should already have in the works, which is your final project pieces. You'll be submitting your outline and your references page this week. And the other piece is active learning and active memory and kind of how to engage with the material that you're learning so that you can recall it better. So I'm going to do a little bit of a mini, I don't like the word lecture, but I have a few things to tell you about this topic. And I thought this was a better way to do it than any. And so that you don't have to stare at our Canvas page, I will give you something much cuter to stare at while you listen to me. This is Georgia. So you can stare at her. Notice that she is paying rapt attention and looks very comfy, but is trying not to fall asleep. So I'm hoping that you will fare as well when you listen to this bit of information. So a lot of times people will come to me. My job at LRCC is kind of CAPS. So I do some advising, but I also do some CAPS work. I help students who are struggling in their courses. And a lot of times someone will come to me with a poor grade on a test and they'll be surprised that they got a bad grade. And they'll say, but I read the chapter. I really did. I read the chapter. And they think I don't believe them. And I always do believe them. And I say, well, how did you read it? And they'll say, well, how many ways are there to do that? And so what I want to get at this week is that there are lots of different ways to read and study and review and engage with your material that makes it easier for you to recall it. The trick that we're trying to get to, or the mindset that we want to get to, is not to work harder, as they say, but to work smarter. If you're trying and you're not succeeding, chances are that you don't need to try harder in most cases. You just need to try differently. So what I want to talk to you about is how to do that, and some of our material this week will help with that as well. One of the ways to engage with your material in a way that you remember it is to make it meaningful. So we all have events in our lives that we remember very vividly for the sole reason that we had a strong emotional connection or an emotional reaction to them. So your parents or your grandparents, depending on how old you are maybe. My parents' generation, this is the moment that JFK was shot. If you ask them where they were when they heard that JFK had been shot, they can all tell you. Exactly. And that was a long time ago right? We're talking 50-something years ago now. So the fact that they can vividly recall that, also those people are getting older now as well and can still vividly recall that, and that's because of an emotional connection or reaction to that event. My generation, it's September 11th. We can tell you exactly where we were, what we were doing, what we were wearing, what images we were looking at. It's the same idea. And obviously, we don't want your work to have to elicit those kind of tragic feelings, but we do want you to create meaningful connection to what you're learning. And those examples serve to show us that by doing that, it makes it more likely that you're going to recall your information. So a couple less tragic examples that relate more directly to learning. There was a study done one time where participants were asked to recall lists of words. And in one group, they were asked to recall the words based on whether or not the word contained the letter E or not. Okay, so that's a very objective thing, whether it has an E in it or not. And the other participants were asked to associate whether the word was pleasant or something they enjoyed or not. And the words were things like dance. So obviously dance has the letter E in it, and dancing is something that some people find joy in and some don't. But based on the criteria of how they were asked to remember it and whether they were asked to associate a feeling with it, people in the group where they were asked to make an emotional connection had a much better recall of the list of words. Okay? Another example has to do with someone who actually was a world record holder for a while in memorizing strings of digits. Now, I don't know what would ever possess someone to decide they want to do this for their record-breaking attempt, but kudos to this guy because he broke a record where he memorized digits that someone read to him at a rate of 1 per second. And that record has since been broken. But what he did is he figured out that when he related them to something that had meaning, he could recall them more easily. So this young man was also a runner, a track runner. He was a very good athlete. And so when he would hear the digits 907, for example, he would picture in his head a pretty good time for a 2-mile race, 9 minutes and 7 seconds. So this made those numbers not random anymore, but something that was familiar and meaningful and something that he enjoyed working with and thinking about. So this helped him to definitely recall more numbers. And again, I don't know why that would be your goal in life, but there are things that you're going to want to recall as part of your learning. And so we can take that principle of making it meaningful for you, and hopefully that will help your recall. So those are some of the things that we're going to be kind of talking about this week. I just wanted to give you those 2 examples so that you would kind of have, just an idea of where we're going and why this is important. And now I'm going to take Gigi's beautiful little face away from you and bring you back to our Canvas page. So I've given you a couple of readings here. One is a textbook excerpt that talks about memory techniques. And I'll just show you what this is. So this, I give you the little citation there and everything, and Charlie Brown, because we got to have Charlie Brown. And then these are very simple, straightforward, it's not super long, ways to remember things, and you choose what works for you. Okay, so it says use for quiz right here. I tried to make it very clear what the expectation was. So read that, save it to your computer if you want to refer to it later. And then the other one is a handout that I made that is about how to learn actively. You've heard the word active learning before. It's kind of a buzzword, but it does have some meaning. So I'm going to wait for this to open. Maybe I can get it a little bigger for you. So yeah, this is I just found this online and thought it was fun. So, and I don't know where that came from. Okay. All right, so these are just some tips. Again, I think I put the source at the bottom for this, but these are some tips as well for active learning, for recalling what you read, rehearsal strategies. So you'll notice that we're calling it rehearsal and not studying. Rehearsal implies being active. Just that word does, right? Think about other times when you rehearse. You rehearse when you're practicing for a play. You rehearse or practice certain skills in athletics, right? Ball handling skills and running drills and things like that. That's active practice. So rehearsing is working with the same information multiple times in different ways to practice the content. Okay, so that's what you're doing when you're rehearsing or studying. If you're going to study effectively, you work with the same information multiple times in different ways. So reading the chapter 6 times is not effective studying. It's long, it's tedious, it's boring, and you're not going to get the result you want. You need to use that information in different ways, engage with it, and work with it. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about this, I hope, if we have a chance. But this is the other piece that the quiz is based on. So again, I've put it right here. I think it's pretty clear, but if it's not, please let me know. So this says use for quiz, and then this is the quiz that you're going to take based on these handouts. It's open book, so to speak. There's no time limit, so you can refer right back to these while you do that. Okay, this is an optional resource I've given you. Again, I said that just passively reading doesn't work, that you need to engage with your texts that you're reading. So these are some strategies on how to do that if that's not something that's familiar for you or that you have done before. One thing that students don't like, so to speak, about active reading is the perception that it takes longer. And in one sense, they're correct. It takes longer to get through it initially. It saves you time in the long run, okay? Because if I'm going through my chapter and I'm doing things like underlining, keywords and defining them, and looking up things that I don't understand, and formulating questions that the instructor might ask me, and making outlines based on the reading, like, yeah, it's going to take me longer to get through the chapter, but I'm going to save time in my before the test studying because I'm going to recall more. And if I'm asked to go back and answer questions or write a paper based on that reading, I'm already going to have all of the important things highlighted and picked out, and I'm not going to have to read all the way through it again. So in the long run, I'm not sure that it does take longer. It's just a matter of where you want to invest that time. Okay, so this is our kind of active learning part. I do think I have some more resources that I will post for you if I can find them, just about some real concrete strategies that you can use to engage with your notes and with your reading to study for tests. A couple that readily come to mind are if you have to label a diagram, you can put it in a dry erase or put it in a sleeve, like a, what are those called? Sheet protector, and use a dry erase marker to do it, practice it and erase it and practice it again. That's one that my nursing students use a lot. Another one is cutting apart charts and tables and putting them back in the right order. So if you're in a history class and you have a timeline, to do, or you have like cause and effect kind of relationships, things like that, that can be a good thing to do. If you have to categorize different things, cutting your resources apart and putting them back, actively moving them around, putting them back in the right order, is a good strategy. So I have a bunch of those I will try to find for you as well. But all of those are active ways to engage with your learning. So this is going to be the first sort of step of the week. The second step of the week, or the second sort of focus element, is things that should already be in the works for you, and that is the pieces of the final project. So I know that there's been some confusion regarding the project, and I apologize for that. I know last week our Zoom session was very rushed. I did think it was important to give you as much time as you wanted or needed with Alice to hear about her work and her experience and allow her to answer questions for you. But then the trade-off we made was that the information about the project was just information overload, and I realized that, and I apologize for that. So some of you have already scheduled individual sessions with me to kind of go over the expectation. That's absolutely fine. I actually welcome that, prefer that. I love to do that with you. So I'm very happy to meet with you via Zoom and talk about whatever it is that is, causing you to struggle, or even just to be a little bit nervous or not quite know where we're going with the project. So this week, what I want you to do is submit your project outline. So we already took a look last week in Zoom at what that could look like. I've posted the example here for you again. It's the same example that was posted earlier, but I put it here kind of to have everything in one place for you. And then this is just where you're going to submit yours. Okay, so please refer to the directions. Make sure that you have all of the components that are required. They're all contained here in this example. It talks about kind of how much you should have, so to speak. And some of that is subjective and also depends a little bit on what you find and things like that. So the bigger thing here, the bigger takeaway, I'm not standing there sort of counting every single point that you have. The bigger takeaway is knowing that you have a plan for your project, that you know what you're going to say and what order you're going to put it in, and you have a plan that's logical and makes sense. That's the idea, okay? That's the takeaway. The second piece is your references page. So when you do your slideshow, obviously you'll have a reference slide, but what you're doing here is a document version of that, okay? So there's instructions here, lots of tips. The references example handout, again, has already been posted, but if you need it, it's right here so everything is together. I've given you some tips to follow and how APA works. There's a thing here on how to create a hanging indent, which is that funky, like, backwards paragraph indent where the first line sticks out and then the rest are in. And then whatever you do, do not leave out your references page because that's plagiarism. Please do not do that. Please don't put me in the position of having to fail you for your project because you don't have references. Please don't just put a list of site URLs. That's not how it works. You need to format them in APA. Okay, I'm asking you to upload your references page as a document by Monday when things are due for week 5. The reason for this is that this is a sticking point for people. This is a point where in the past people have struggled. I know that this is a tedious kind of a thing, but it is something that you will do throughout college. So it is something that is important that we kind of at least know where to find the information if we need it or how to do it. I mean, you certainly don't have to remember every piece of APA. You can look that up, but we want to get in the habit of knowing that we have to cite things and how to do that correctly. So please upload your page as a document by Monday. That will give us time to catch any mistakes and fix them before it's part of your final project and becomes a bigger deal in terms of your grade. So please make sure that you do that. The other piece of this that hangs people up, and I have to be honest, I don't quite understand it, but you'll see here that the first hint says the title of your page is references. I get the most creative titles for reference pages. In APA, the title is references. It's not bibliography. It's not works cited. It's not, here are the things I found on the internet. The title is references. That's it. Just write the word references right at the top. Centered. No formatting, no bold, no underlining, no bigger font, nothing. Just references. Easy peasy. Please don't make it harder than it is, okay? I'm not sure why that's such a sticking point, but it always is every semester. So I'm giving you the inside scoop here, okay? Read through the rest of these. Take a look at the examples. If you still have questions, I am glad to help you. I do realize that this only has kind of the most common types of sources. So if you found something really kind of unique or different, it might not be on there. So feel free to ask me. Okay. I think that's about all I wanted to tell you for the week. So again, your things to do for the week, obviously you need to read these things and use these resources, but as far as things to actually submit, you have 3: the study skills and memory strategies quiz, the project outline, and the references page. The syllabus does list a discussion and a reflection, I believe, or maybe just a discussion, I'm not sure, for week 5. Again, I have canceled that because I want you to focus on these pieces. I'm going to be straight up with you and just tell you that FYE is a very challenging class to teach because I'm trying to balance your career research and the big topics like purpose and values and things with how do we study and how do we manage our time, and trying to give you concrete strategies that you can take moving forward. And I feel that both of those pieces are important, but to try to fit that into 8 weeks in a way that is doable for you to be successful and also respectful of your time is very challenging. So I know we are deviating from the syllabus somewhat, but hopefully you understand that that's, me trying to make it manageable for you. So if you ever have any questions or confusion about that, please let me know. Okay. I do have one thing to show you that's very important. So I hope you're still paying attention. This is me being somewhat sarcastic, but because I am an 80s baby and a 90s kid, and because Hunter pointed out to us last week the very important piece of information that Animaniacs is coming back to the world. Thank you. 2020 at least has something good coming out of it, man. I am excited about this. So because some of you said, I don't know what that is, and I think that's tragic, I have posted under our Happy Stuff discussion, should you choose to watch it, the Animaniacs theme song that has been stuck in my head since Tuesday. I thought I also posted the trailer to the reboot, which you might find interesting because it has some things about the animation and the voiceovers and things. I'm not seeing that there. I will try to remember to post it. If not, you can find that on YouTube as well. But thank you, Hunter, for that because I needed that in my life, and I'm very excited for this reboot. So we'll all have to get back together in November and, make sure that we share what we thought about it. So anyway, okay, so that's it for week 5. Again, I'm happy to do any kind of meeting with you or anything else. If you are behind, please, please, please get caught up. There are some of you that are slipping behind, and I get it. Things happen. You can always hand in late work. Better late than never for sure. Don't allow yourself to snowball. This is week 5. We only have 8, and the last 2 are very taken up with the project. So please don't allow yourself to slip. Okay, sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that because there's a fairly lenient late work policy that you can just wait until the end or that you don't have to do the work. Don't make that mistake. If you don't do the work, I'll still like you, I'll still help you, I'll still root for you, but you will not do well in the class. So please go to your grades on Canvas. If there's anything that's a 0 in there, submit it again, make it up, get yourself caught up. If you need help with any of it, reach out to me, but please don't allow yourself to snowball because we're really kind of coming up on the point of no return here as far as the class goes. Okay? All right, so I wish you all a wonderful week. Congrats on making it more than halfway through. Please reach out at any time if I can help you in any way, and I mean that with all my heart. I wish you the very best this week and keep moving forward.